Hey everybody, welcome to Lady Overlander Radio. Tonight we're speaking with Matt Caldwell and Don Cox of Tread Lightly. Stay tuned.
Grab your favorite drink, whether it's a coffee, cocktail, or tea, and get ready. It's Ladies' Night on Lady Overlander Radio. The Lady Overlander Radio podcast is sponsored by Frontrunner Outfitters, Midland Radio, Go Treads, Sport Keg, CB Adventure Supply, Adventure Trail Outfitters, Overland Spices, and the More Expo.
Hey Arla, hey girl, hey.
Hey girl, hey. Where you at?
What
you doing?
I am in Thermopolis, Wyoming right now. Pretty awesome. It's finally warm. Yeah. Spent the last couple days in Idaho and that was a little chilly still. But yeah. Working our way up north and we're going to go to Tin Sleep and then meet up with Bill and Deb from Cottywample Overland and travel around with them a little bit. Then I'm going to break off from them and head out to Expo Pacific Northwest. I got roped into doing some more classes there. So
nice.
Good times.
Awesome.
You? What are you doing?
It's hot here. Like 88. And it stormed really bad here. And everybody knows how much I love storms.
Oh, yeah. Any tornadoes?
It was the creepiest wall cloud I've ever seen in my life today.
Ooh, no, thank you.
Lots of wind. Hail, of course, So looking out the window at my Jeep going, please don't get bigger than that. Please don't get bigger than that.
Yeah. That hail at Expo West was pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, that lasted forever.
It
was the longest hailstorm I've ever been in. Luckily, it was tiny, but it took forever.
all I kept thinking was, all these rigs are going to get destroyed. But
looking around, all these rigs are like, oh, gosh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so our schedule, we'll be at Pacific Northwest, or I will be, and then we'll be doing our ladies camping retreat in September. Just a little kind of get-together thing for Lady Overlander Radio fans. And then also in September, we'll be doing the Teton Overland Show. And then we'll have our normal stuff, Big Iron, Overland Rally, and Rendezvous in the Ozarks, that kind of fun stuff. So come say hi to us at any of those events. We'll also try to be doing a few Tread Lightly cleanups if we can get coordinated with that. So you can come say hi to us there. We did one out in Cinder Hills right before Expo West, which was pretty awesome. It was a pretty good turnout there. So if you find any events in your local area, be sure to go out and help clean up because it's desperately needed. I can tell you that. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Matt Caldwell, who is the CEO of Tread Lightly, and let him give a little background on himself and on Tread Lightly, the organization.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate you guys having us on and excited to be able to share a little bit more about Tread Lightly and what we've got going all over the country. So, just real quick about Tread Lightly. A lot of people don't know Tread Lightly was actually started by the Forest Service. We're celebrating 33 years this year. So it's been going for quite a while. We were broken off into a nonprofit, which we still operate on now. And we have three main focus areas. One is, stewardship and taking care of the land that we get to enjoy and adventure on. Two is education, teaching people how to enjoy the land that we're adventuring on. And then, doing outreach and communication to share all the positive things that, our community does to take care of public lands. So excited to be on tonight and just share a little bit more about what we have going.
Awesome.
Very nice. And Don Cox is from Florida. And go ahead and give you a little background on yourself, Don, and how you're associated with Tread Lightly.
Yep. Thank you for having us on tonight. It is really exciting to be able to reach out to this many people at once and get the message out there. I got involved with Tread Lightly in 2020 when the Jeep Badge of Honors program named the Tread Lightly four-wheel driveway trail in the Ocala National Forest a Badge of Honor trail. At the time, I just barely knew anything about the Tread Lightly organization, so it was definitely an education for me to learn about them and find out more. And once I started getting into it, I just kept going and didn't stop. And in late 2020, I took a phone call with Matt, and I told him, I said, I don't want to, make a splash in Florida with Tread Lightly. I want to go off like a bomb. And I believe we achieved that because there was no message out there as far as responsible behavior in Florida at the time. So we've made some great progress here in Florida, and I think it's something to be really proud of. So that's my story for the moment. So
Yeah, I grew up in Marion County and then in Citrus County, so I understand, the guys going out on the weekends and drinking and wheeling and all that stuff, and then you probably look there on Monday morning and there's a huge mess that's left over, trash and campfires, random things. And like we talked about before we went live, a lot of people use these national forests and public lands as dumping grounds. They don't feel like taking their trash to the actual dump site or landfill, and they just take it out in the woods and leave it there. It's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, how bad was the Ocala National Forest when you got involved with that? Because like I told you earlier, when I was a kid, we didn't really go there.
It's
really,
from what I hear from the stories of the folks that have been around a lot longer than I have, it was really bad, and it has gotten a lot better. And over the last couple of years, we've made some real progress in getting some areas cleaned up and more enjoyable for recreationists to use the forest. So it's definitely an ongoing process, and we're getting there. So we just need to keep moving and keep getting the word out that we're out there doing some good work.
Yeah. Well, you guys are doing great work, and you were named the 2021 Tread Lightly Ambassador of the Year, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And a big part of that, I contribute to the community itself. They came out in support of me when I started spreading the message, and a lot of people have jumped on the bandwagon and has contributed to getting the message out there as well. So I can't take all the credit for that, but I definitely was very honored to have that Ambassador of the Year award put on me in 2021. And that came a lot from going out into the shows and reaching out to people through the big events that we do here in Florida.
Yeah, and I think people probably pretty surprised to find out just how many different types of public lands there are in Florida, because I don't know, like, it's not something I ever really thought about when I was younger growing up there. Like, I knew that there was the Osceola National Forest and the Ocala National Forest, and that was about it. But there's, National Park, there's different water management areas, wildlife management areas, state parks, state forests. There's all kinds of different public lands for people to go and recreate and have a good time on there. And, I know that that's pretty standard across most states, but it was just surprising to me to realize how many opportunities there were to go out and camp and enjoy the outdoors and stuff there that I didn't realize when I was younger.
Yeah, the development in Florida, as most people know, has just been a boom the last couple of 3 years, and it is amazing how much area is protected still in Florida and can never be developed. There is a lot of land in Florida, and most of it is accessible one way or another, either through hiking or biking or actually off-road type vehicles can access these areas.
So I do, going with the off-roading part and the popularity of overlanding. Let's, Matt, I would like to get your take on how you think this boom in overlanding has affected our public lands. Do you think it's had a good effect or a bad effect overall?
Well, I would say it's both. I'm going to take the easy way out and say both. I think it's great.
Okay.
I think that it's great that so many people have gone to the outdoors as a way to adventure and escape. That's why I do it. It's why I love to go off road. So I think that piece is great, and I think with the challenges of the last 3 years, that opportunity to clear your mind by getting outdoors is really great. I think what it's done though is it's obviously put a huge stress on our public lands and on our public land managers. It really doesn't matter where it is. We do work all over the country and we hear it everywhere. I was on a call today and we were talking about particularly power sports in Arizona and UTVs. UTV registrations in Arizona since 2020 have jumped by 80%.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, again, it's great that more people are getting outside. But obviously that type of jump puts a lot of stress on the areas that we love to enjoy.
Oh yeah. That's wow. I'm kind of with where you are, where I'm really, really glad to see more people getting out and using the public lands and recreating and doing all of these outdoor activities. And I think COVID was a big push for that because people could go out and social distance and do their thing. But at the same time, I do worry how much of that affects, because I know, like, just with the state parks in Florida, because I was a volunteer there before, just with the state parks, I know how understaffed they are. So I can only imagine on a federal level, the different public lands and how widespread they are, that, they're probably pretty understaffed and underfunded as well. And
really good point. The number is somewhere in the 20 to 30% is the number that we hear in terms of under-resourced, and that's headcount. So that's approved positions that aren't filled. So then there's the funding piece on top of it, in addition to the people. So, both of those things make the task for the land managers really easy. Really difficult. And then, like something like travel management, we all talk about travel management and our motor vehicle use maps. Those weren't designed to see an 80% increase.
No.
So, there's a lot of things that have had to happen on the fly, and sometimes those aren't necessarily favorable for us if we're hoping to have access. But really important. I think that is a key role that Tread Lightly plays, is to step in and be that resource and fill that gap. Where our land managers know that they're under-resourced.
Yeah, absolutely. So in what ways specifically is Tread Lightly able to help those different forests and public lands?
Yeah, great question. So, I think a lot of people know Tread Lightly, like you said, is, cleanup efforts, and those are awesome and they're great and they're much needed for all of the reasons that you said. What we found is there's kind of that next level need, which is right now not really being serviced by many people. There's a lot of groups that organize a cleanup. A club might organize a cleanup. We've got, several groups specifically out here in the West that's what they do and they focus on. And we support those groups a lot of time. We provide them with funding. We get dumpsters delivered for them so that they can fill those. But that next level work, stuff like fencing work, remediation work, signage work, that's been a gap. And it's really where in the last 2 years, we've kind of stepped up and stepped into that role. We've probably placed, I'm guessing here, 15 to 20 kiosks in multiple states this year. And we've probably got another 30 to 40 to place this year. So for us, that's obviously stewardship work. It's visible, tangible work that people can see, like, hey, somebody's out here making a difference. But there's also a really strong educational component that comes with all those kiosks of, how do we act when we're out on public land? So for us, that's really important to tell that story of, hey, this is how we be responsible through the education piece. But there's also this method to give back and do your part to also give back to the lands that have given so much to us.
Yeah, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. Maybe, do you think it's more of a lack of education or a lack of caring, or do you think it's a little bit of both?
I think it's both. And I think I sit at meetings all the time, and we do this and point fingers at where the issue is. It could be everything from our dealer base that have been super busy the last 2 years, and they just want somebody to sign a dotted line and you toss them the key. To people that never grew up in the outdoors or venturing outside. They've been forced to because of the last 2 or 3 years. And I think in a lot of cases, people don't know. I use the example a lot. I have a really trusted, person within the land management agencies in Moab.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him one day, I said, so what is it? Like, who's the issue, or what's the issue? And I had an idea, I'm like, I think he's going to go down this route. And he said, Matt, if I'm honest with you, it's 1% of everybody. And he said, I'm not just talking about motorized recreation. I'm talking about every form of recreation, from mountain bikes to climbers to overlanders to power sports people. There's a portion of every group that causes the impacts that we see. So in some cases, we've got to lead by example and just share that information with them that they might not know. And in other cases, we've got to really almost come alongside them and say, like, hey, do you even understand, like, something as simple as driving off trail, driving around obstacles?
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. Somebody has a very expensive rig that's very capable of driving over something, and we want to drive around it. We've all seen it. So, just being able to talk to people and say, hey, have you thought about this? And I think a lot of times we find when you share that information and you share it in the right way, people are like, I had no idea, I didn't know, or I'm new to this. So one of the best examples I can give, UTV impacts in Sedona have been substantial in the last 2 years. We have a group that works very hard there on multiple impacts, and Arizona Game and Fish came up with a 5-minute educational video that talked about everything from safety to staying on trail. It's a great piece. We started showing that at all the rental outfitters. Since we started showing that, we've had anywhere from a 50 to 75% reduction in incidents with UTV rental.
Really? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a substantial number. And I mean, again, to get somebody to watch a 4-minute video, the one outfitter, I love it. He waits till they strap in, and then he sticks the tablet in front of them so they can't get away. He makes them watch it. But I mean, those are really, really great things. And those are easy to do. And, that's a cooperative effort between Game and Fish and Tread Lightly and, the rental outfitters. There's some solutions out there that we can definitely work on.
Well, yeah, I think that we all have a role to play. Even the people that do, take people out on tours commercially and everything. Everybody has a role to play in that, and everybody can definitely make a difference. I find it interesting that a 5-minute video, that's pretty awesome, because I know that Utah recently, I think last year, made it to where you have to do a mandatory little training video before you can go out and wheel or with ATVs or OHVs or anything. So I'm wondering do you think Arizona is going to follow suit with that, or have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, so we were involved in the Utah piece. We actually helped create a fair amount of the content for the Utah piece. It's probably, the Utah piece is a 20-25 minute, course. There's some video, there's, quizzes and questions in it, and you get your certificate at the end. It's a once in a lifetime course. So, I mean, for the 20 minutes that it takes, I think it's well worthwhile. In terms of Arizona, the course requirement was actually in a bill that was introduced into the legislature last year. It got held up in committee and didn't make it to the floor. But I have a feeling in upcoming years, we'll continue to see that option come. And, hopefully that's something that gets passed. And again, if it gives everybody the chance to educate themselves, that's great. And I think it's beneficial for everybody in the community.
Yeah, I think there is some lack of education. Like, there's some people that don't know, how to properly dispose. We talked earlier before we went live about, you spent a quite a bit of time on another podcast talking about restrooms, restroom use
Yeah.
out in the woods. And,
Mhm.
maybe people don't realize I really need to, do this specific thing with this and not do that. And, you know, I just think that maybe some of it is lack of education, but I do find that I still see people that just unfortunately just don't care. And like we talked about, taking their stuff out there and just dumping it.
Mhm.
For somebody else, some other forestry service person or Bureau of Land Management or somebody else to have to go deal with that.
Mhm.
It's just not that's not cool
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
What Tara
Don't
say
disagree
here?
at all.
Yeah, we got a couple of comments in here.
Okay.
Tara McGovern says the Utah course is awesome, and I wish it was required by all states. It's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. Bats Off Road says I'm a trail guide for Onyx. In order to be accepted, I had to go through some Tread Lightly training. I think these partnerships are fantastic.
Absolutely.
Another good point. Should
Yeah.
absolutely do that.
So let's talk about training. Let's talk about the different training options that Tread Lightly provides. And Don, you're a tread trainer, correct? Is that the correct term for that?
Yes, I'm a tread trainer, and I'm also a master tread trainer.
Okay.
I've gone through both of those programs, and I could probably elaborate a little bit more on this. Obviously, we have the ground level educational program that's online, and it's free and accessible to anybody that goes online and accesses it. It's about a 45-minute course that you take, and you can go through and get a certificate, like Matt said on the other Utah course. This the online awareness course. You can get a certificate for doing that course, and then the next level up from that, you go to the Tread Trainer program, and the Tread Trainer program is a class that lasts about 8 hours, and it goes in depth into the history of Tread Lightly, what the principles are, and all the aspects of responsible outdoor recreation. Then the final piece to the puzzle, so to speak, is the Master Tread Trainer curriculum, and that teaches you how to teach the Tread Lightly principles and curriculum. So you can go through all three of those programs. The Tread Trainer course can only be taught by staff or a master tread trainer, and then the master tread trainer class can only be taught by staff. So
Okay.
there is some requirements there of who teaches those classes. The online awareness class is accessible by everyone. So, and I've been through obviously all three of the educational opportunities.
And so how often do you train other people? Are you doing that like on a quarterly basis or as needed?
It's kind of an as needed as far as my tread trainer goes. Now there is some availability of online training for the tread trainer course. I think a lot of people will migrate to that because they can do it from their home.
Mm-hmm.
I've done one since I've been a master tread trainer. I was certified late in 2021 as a master tread trainer, and I did one class last year. I've got some interest in doing a class this year. I've yet to schedule it, but I'm looking forward to getting that on the schedule soon. It'll probably be sometime later this year, around September or October, for the Central Florida area. If anybody wants to come to a live tread trainer class.
Awesome. That's great information. So Matt, tell us a little bit about the Tread Trainer program overall and how effective that's been.
Yeah, the Tread Trainer program, it's interesting that it was originally funded by the grant that we had from the Federal Highway Administration. And that's, OHV and off-road vehicle use, as part of the fuel tax. There's a portion of the fuel tax that's associated with that. And some of that funding comes back and goes back to, our off-road use. So we've actually been in a place where we haven't had that funding though now for almost 2 years. So the whole master or tread trainer and master tread trainer program, Tread Lightly, has just been funding on our own. So that's been a little bit challenging, but like Don just said, the one thing that it did open us up for is in the past, a requirement was that they were always in person. Now, where we don't have that grant, it has opened up the ability to do online training, which is a lot more flexible, and we can get different people involved. I think the other piece that's really important is we've started to see a lot of interest from our industry partners in doing tread training with their staffs internally. And I think when we can get into a company and kind of start to change the culture and ingrain tread lightly and tread principles into the culture, that's really important. Rivian's a great example. We have multiple master tread trainers now within Rivian, and they have been able then to do tread training with people within their organization. The other thing that we've been doing is some very targeted trainings. We've had several of our industry partners come to us and say, can you do a training on this or on this? One of the biggest requests we've had lately for our internal corporate partners is training on social media and kind of PR aspects. So we've created a course that's called Tread Lightly with Your Content. And we actually will go back into the social media channels for that partner and start to identify, hey, here's some things that are potential issues, maybe a PR issue or something that might end up getting called out. And in a lot of cases, it just allows us to educate their team, whether that's their internal marketing team, or in sometimes it's a external, ad agency. We've been able to be in front of those. We have one corporate partner where we've probably trained close to 75 people on their marketing team. So I think all of this is, again, it's really important. The tread principles are, they're not rocket science, but they make sense. I've had somebody ask me recently, are you going to do the tread principles because of the change to EV? Well, no, that's the great thing about them. They all still work. It doesn't really matter what vehicle you're in. So I think, all of this is, the training piece is important. Don's one that's doing, we've got some other tread trainers that are doing trainings across the country. We have multiple organizations that are plugging it into things that they are doing. Danielle from our team, she tries to do a tread trainer, a master tread trainer about once a quarter. Mm-hmm. And we kind of keep a list going of what are requests and how are those building up. And then, we try to get a course knocked out.
Yeah. And I know we talked at Expo West about doing a Lady of Orlando Radio's ladies tread trainer mm-hmm. course that we're working on. So we'll put out more information about that once we have that kind of solidified. So if any ladies out there would like to sign up for that, we can all kind of take it together as a group, which I think would be really neat. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Speaking of ladies, April Upton is on here and she says, thanks for talking about training. She just taught an off-road 101 course last week and included the tread principles from your website. April, did you do that in the Ozark National Forest or where did you go?
That's pretty awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, and you also have a job opening currently, correct? Director of Communications or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we actually, we had two. We just filled the one. We brought in a second program manager into Arizona.
Okay.
That's been really great. We've continued to try to grow what's going on here in Arizona. But yeah, we're to a place, a lot of people don't know, in the last 2.5 years, we've doubled our team. When I started in October of 2020, I was full-time employee number 8, and we're working on number 15 right now. So the last 2.5 years have been really great. But yeah, we're looking for a director of marketing and communications to kind of lead our marketing and communications efforts. I would say probably one of the biggest learnings for me in the last 2.5 years is our work doesn't end when we finish a project. There's way too many people in the public, whether they're part of our community or not, that don't know about the positive work that the community's doing. And, we really need to continue to tell the story, whether it's Tread Lightly or it's other groups. It could be individual clubs, or it could be individuals like Don that just seriously, Don called me and said, I'm going to make a really big splash in Florida. So we need this person to come on board and really start to drive our strategy of how do we get as many people as possible aware of what we're doing. I look at a lot of the other big nonprofits in the United States that we all know about. We know about them because they're constantly talked about and constantly communicated about. I don't expect to be one of those big ones like Red Cross or United Way tomorrow, but we've got to start working our way towards that and make sure more people know about the positive work that's being done.
Yeah, and I think that having the appropriate staff in place is definitely a big key factor for that. So that's pretty great that you're able to expand and bring on more full-time staff.
I personally am very looking forward to having that person on board to take some things.
I bet you are. So let's talk about the Cinder Hills OHV cleanup. We participated in that, and we did a little bit of trash cleanup like you talked about, but we also did, some people did signage. I know they took down a lot of signs and changed out some signs there. They also did something else, which I found interesting, which was we had to go along the fence line and remove all of the tumbleweeds. And I never really thought about that. What a large, fire issue that is when those tumbleweeds get caught on fencing. And, that was pretty interesting to me. But you had, how many people did you end up having there at that cleanup?
Yeah, we had about 80 people out there the Thursday before Overland Expo. And huge thank you to Overland Expo Foundation, for funding those efforts to make that project possible. We really had a plan last year to do a project in conjunction with Expo West last year. And then, to your point you just made, we had 2 substantial wildfires in the Cinder Hills area.
Yeah.
We actually had to cancel the project twice, and we weren't able to get that project in until November of last year. And interestingly enough, with the project in November, one of the things that we did was we replaced almost 500 feet of worm fencing. And, it was pretty wild to walk into the forest, and we're with the Forest Service, and they're like, 4 months ago, there was a fence here. And other than the large nails that had been into the corner post, you couldn't see that there had been a fence there. It was completely gone. So, that's a great example of a little bit different type of work, that we're able to do. The Forest Service allows us to do. And they told us that's something that, was a huge load off of them. The person that we work with at the Forest Service, when we met with him at Cinder Hills last September, he told me after the event that you were at, his name's Matt as well. He's like, Matt, when you and Michelle showed up at last September, he's like, these guys are too good to be true. This can't be real. Because we told him we wanted to get 2 kiosks placed for him that they didn't have the funding for. So we actually went and wrote a grant to the Yamaha Outdoor Access Initiative, got the funding for those. Then at the project that you were at, we actually installed the 2 new kiosks, replaced signage on those and another kiosk. We picked up almost a ton of trash out of Cinder Hills. And then again, like you said, the tumbleweeds, you don't think about it until you think about that area. I drove through that area twice last year when it was on fire. And that's a pretty substantial danger. And that was actually a request that was made by the neighbors. There's a neighborhood right next to Cinder Hills, which is that's a whole nother story. The project in November, I had a lady that had called me earlier last year, and she said, hey, I hear about the work that you guys are doing in Sedona. Do you ever think you're going to make it up to Cinder Hills? And I said, well, actually, we've tried twice. The fire has caused some issues, but we plan to be up there. This lady is just a neighbor. She's not part of the off-road community at all. She came to the event. She brought 4 of her neighbors with her. They chipped in and joined us for the event in November. And she came to me after the event and she said, "Thank you so much for coming and for organizing this. It's been really great. We never knew that anybody cared in the community." So huge impact on her. She was actually traveling this time and wasn't able to come. But she's been in communication with us and she's like, "I hope we can make this a regular thing, every year." But just a great, impact in the community. It was great to have, a couple of our other partners there that are close, and have their businesses in that community. We had another partner there. We actually had one of our partners from Ford that was with us. And she was blown away that you guys got 80 people out here. Some people should have been setting up their booths. Some people could have been hanging out with friends that they hadn't seen in a while. And you've got people out here, giving back to public lands. So really awesome experience on a ton of different levels.
Yeah, you had Casey Highlights was out there. Was it Canyon Coolers or
Canyon Coolers? Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, the head of KC was there, and that was fantastic, seeing everybody come together, and they gave out little swag bags for everybody, which was really nice. I got one of those nice wet retro hats. I'm loving that thing. But yeah, it was pretty awesome. I was really happy to see the turnout, and it made me want to look up more opportunities to go out and do more, because I feel like when you see that other people care, sometimes it prompts you to care a little more, like every time we go camping, we leave with an extra bag or two of trash from the campsite, but it's nice to see groups of people come together like that and really make a big impact in an area.
Completely agree. And so there's 3 more opportunities. There'll be a project in conjunction with the 3 remaining expos. Mm-hmm. We're working on details for those. It sounds like the Pacific Northwest one will probably be the Monday after the show.
Okay.
And then, we're working on an opportunity for Colorado and for Virginia. It's again, great opportunity to just for the community, to come together, the overland community, and show those communities where we have those events, like the positive things that we can do and the positive impact that we can have.
Well, yeah, especially the people that live right around the entrances to the public lands, they see all the bad. So it's nice to see, have that representation to see the good that people can do as well.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So any other initiatives coming up for the next year or two, next 5 years for Tread Lightly? Any other types of new things you're able to talk about right now?
Yeah, we really want to continue, our efforts in terms of stewardship. We've actually made some changes. I've used stewardship a couple times. We're trying to talk more about trail restoration or trail maintenance or conservation work. It resonates a little bit better with a bigger audience. Mm-hmm. What we've seen is if people haven't maybe grown up in this world or lived in this community, you say the word stewardship to them and they're like, "I don't get that. I don't know what that means." So we've changed our vernacular a little bit, but we really want to continue to expand that. We've had a program going with Quadratech now for a little over a year to do a project in every single state, which has been a pretty massive undertaking. I was actually exchanging emails today with a Jeep club in Hawaii. We're trying to get that project knocked off the list. No surprise, everybody on our team has raised their hand and said that they're willing to go to that project and support it.
I'm sure.
But we really want to continue to expand that. Our big thing, I think the thing that's allowed us to expand, when I came on board, all of us were in our office in Utah, which is great. And it's amazing. And Utah's great and amazing, but we really needed to be out in the field and growing relationships with land managers, seeing and identifying issues on our own, and really even starting to come up with solutions with those before we ever got the land managers involved. Mm-hmm. So we now have program managers in South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, and California.
Wow.
So the long-term plans are to continue to make some pretty strategic placements with those program manager positions. If I remember correctly, the plan calls for 12 program managers across the country. The next stage of that is to introduce a partner for that program manager, where we'll have a program manager that's kind of the interface person with the land managers. And then we'd have a stewardship manager that works directly with that person, and they're kind of the boots on the ground person that's getting the work done and coordinating the actual project work. And those two would be a team, working over a specific area. So that's a tall order. That takes a lot to make that happen, from finding the right people and finding the funding. But that's where we're hoping to head and continue to grow the organization and grow the positive impact that we're able to have. People like Don, we've got some incredible ambassadors that make that possible too. Don was the first ambassador of the year we did. The second one we did is Ron Harrington. Ron's up in New England, in the Vermont area. He is, like Don, those guys get out and make things happen, and continuing to build that. The 120 projects that we did, approximately 120 projects that we did last year, we had 2,200 volunteers that showed up for those projects. So we couldn't do it without those people, and we hope that pool of volunteers continues to grow, and we can continue to provide opportunities for them.
Wow, that's amazing. I love it. I love hearing that. So what do you think are just a few things that any everyday person can do? Just little things that people can do, little changes they can make.
The D of the Tread principles is do your part. And I love what you just said. I mean, we think that there's a role that everybody can play, no matter where you live, no matter where you adventure. So one of the easiest ones that I always like to share when I get that question is, have you ever considered about taking 2 trash bags, one for yourself and one to give to somebody else that might not have one? It doesn't get a whole lot simpler than that. But we've all been on the trail and seen that person looking like, where am I going to put this? So if we have that second bag and we can share it with them, that's a huge, huge thing for me. I think, the other thing is we can usually identify the people that might be new, and, engage with them. Say, hey, I love that you're out here. I know sometimes it's tough to ask questions like, what question do you have for me? And be a resource. One of the reasons I was gone from the off-road community for a few years, and I missed it because of that piece, the community and camaraderie that exists. And in my mind, we need to really focus on continuing to build that and continuing to expand that. And we do that by little things just like that, of like, hey, let me be a resource for you. Let me share something that I maybe learned the hard way, and I want to make it an easy learn for you. So those things are all simple. We talked a little bit, right now, just because of the time that we're in, we were involved with a fire sense campaign in Utah last week. I think what I hope we don't see is that people let their guard down because we had so much precipitation this winter. What that's going to mean is we actually have more grass. So later in the year, the fire danger is going to increase as we have the dryness of summer. So, everybody can be really smart, do their part, make sure they're extinguishing their fires appropriately, make sure they're not parking in tall grass. Look at the amount of land that we've lost because of wildfires in the last few years. We want to make sure we're doing our part to make sure we don't add to that.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of fires going on in Canada right now that are affecting the United States. And do you guys have any partnerships with anyone in Canada or any other countries currently, or not yet?
So great question. We actually have a really good relationship with a couple of clubs in British Columbia. They're really strong on the Tread Lightly principles and share a lot of that with their clubs. We also have a relationship with a group in the UK called the Tread Lightly Trust. And they use our content and materials pretty regularly. There's a classic example. We take for granted what we have. When I talk with John over there, I'll use the phrase, hey, we have 50,000 miles of motorized trails in Arizona. And he'll be like, Matt, we have 2,000 miles in the entire UK. So we have to protect what we have. And then we've been having some conversations regarding Mexico and Central America as well. Right now, it's just a little bit of a capacity issue. We've got so many challenges here. Do you keep expanding into other areas, or do we focus on making sure we're addressing everything we need to here? But there's definitely opportunities there.
Yeah, I would see, even some of the islands like St. Thomas, Puerto Rico. I know there's a lot of people in Puerto Rico that have gotten into off-roading and overlanding down there as well. Mexico, a lot of these other countries are starting to branch out into that as well. And, there's going to be a lot more of that, their public lands being used. So maybe down the road, there'll be more partnerships like that. I think that would be pretty awesome.
It would be great. And, again, for Tread Lightly to have enough awareness that the need and the desire is there to grow it outside of the States, that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, no kidding. We got last year, I drove through the 2020 Mullen wildfire in southern Wyoming. So sad. That's from Bats Off-Road.
Yeah. We had something else. Did you put up Upton's comment about something about the different work she's doing up in
over in Virginia?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Roush Creek and Anthracite. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, we actually we just did a project in the Washington Jefferson. One of our program manager that's Region 9 handles Region 9 of the Forest Service, Scott Ammerman. He's Pennsylvania based, so he's been doing some work up there. I'm actually headed to Land Between the Lakes tomorrow to do a project there. We've been having some discussions with the Dan Boone National Forest, the Allegheny in Pennsylvania. There was definitely a concerted effort 2.5 years ago to stretch eastward, and having those program managers and our 2 ambassadors of the year on the East Coast has been a huge part of that.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome people from what I've seen so far. So I think that's great. And you get cool chairs, apparently. Don, you want to show them your chair?
Yeah, let me show you that chair.
I mean, I want a chair like that.
It's fancy. It just hugs every curve. Look at that thing.
That is awesome.
Sit all day in that, dude.
A gaming chair,
That's
a race car chair,
yeah.
Yeah, it's a chair from Corbeau, which is a Utah-based company that does seats from everything from Jeeps to road racing cars, and a great partner of ours. They came to us and said, we want to come on board. And it was the time we were talking about the Ambassador of the Year program. I'm like, hey, well, if these guys and ladies are out there working that hard to become the Ambassador of the Year, they need a chair to rest in during the off season. So it made a lot of sense.
There you go. There is no off season in Florida, is there, Don?
No, there is not.
No, there's not.
Technically, our hunting season is our off season because we stay out of the forest during the hunting season so that the hunters can have the forest for themselves. So that's pretty much our off season. We go to private parks during that time and enjoy them. But yes, that's our only time we're not out in the national and state forests.
Where's your favorite place to camp, Don?
I have a passion for the Ocala National Forest. So anywhere there, I don't camp. I don't do boondocking, which is kind of it's questionable whether you can do it in the Ocala National Forest. There is dispersed camping, but you can only use a tent or a hammock. But sometimes the campgrounds, the rec areas are the best place to go. So I go to Alexander Springs, Juniper Springs, go to those. And those are still, there's no hookups in those campgrounds, so it is still a little bit primitive.
Yeah, Juniper
those are
Springs
my-
is one of my favorite.
Yeah, those are my favorite places to go.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, guys, for being on the show and talking to us about Tread Lightly and spreading the message. And again, they're hiring, so check that out. Go look at that job application. They sound like a great organization to work for. And make sure you get out there on their social media and check out any events they've got coming up and do your part. And you'll be able to listen to this podcast back on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'll be posting that up tomorrow or the next day. So if you missed the live, you'll definitely be able to catch this later at a later time. So thank you so much, guys, and everybody have a wonderful night.
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Take care, everyone.